Welcome back to Supply Chain 360. My name is Ralph Leindecker and I'm the host of today's show. If this kind of content is useful for you, please follow the show and share it with someone in your network who might enjoy it too. Thank you. This is part of a BANI series, Practical Conversations on Thriving When Everything Keeps Changing. So far we've unpacked the BANI world itself, explored why viability matters more than resilience, and walked through the four core pillars: complexity, orchestration, risk, and enablement. Today I want to zoom out and look at something much bigger, something that isn't a sudden crisis, but a clear, predictable transformation that's already reshaping European industry. It's what I would call a white swan event, visible, data-driven, and impossible to ignore. You may have seen the headlines recently. 70% of industrial companies are moving investments out of Germany. That's not speculation. It's from a new survey of 240 top executives across Europe and the US. 31% are actively shifting production to other continents. 42% are investing in other European countries instead of Germany, or simply hitting pause at home. Why? Because the conditions that once defined Germany as an industrial powerhouse are eroding, and fast. Energy costs remain amongst the highest in the developed world. CO2 pricing keeps climbing. Hydrogen infrastructure isn't arriving at the pace companies were promised. Add to that political uncertainty, bureaucracy, and sluggish demand, and you've got a recipe for strategic relocation. It's not panic, it's math. Executives are looking at their spreadsheets, their energy bills, and their emissions budgets and saying this isn't viable anymore. That's why companies like ArcelorMittal are building their next generation of low-carbon plants in France, not Germany, and why specialty manufacturers like Schott AG are moving towards local-for-local production, designing regional supply chains that serve regional markets. This isn't about abandoning Europe, it's about redesigning Europe's industrial footprint for survival. And here's where it gets relevant for all of us in pharma and life sciences. Every time heavy industry moves, the entire supply chain ecosystem shifts with it. Energy providers, raw material suppliers, component makers, logistics routes, even certification hubs. If chemical production leaves Germany, where do your intermediates come from? If glass and packaging relocate to Southern Europe or India, how does that change your cold chain routes? And if manufacturing becomes more regional, do your risk models still assume the same import mix and lead times? These aren't hypotheticals. They are the next phase of a transition that's already underway. This is what a white swan looks like. It's not a shock that blindsides us overnight. It's a visible wave on the horizon. We just have to be willing to look at it. For viable supply chains, the challenge is to read these signals early and translate them into design choices. And now the million-dollar question, what are those? Look into network mapping. See where your upstream dependencies really sit. Also look into scenario planning. Model what happens if cost structures shift across regions. And finally, local-for-local strategies shorten the path between production and patient without losing quality or oversight. The leaders who do that aren't reacting, they are pre-positioning. So here's the takeaway for today. Not every disruption is a black swan. Some, like the slow industrial migration out of Germany, arrive with full press coverage and years of warning. And in the BANI world, the organizations that stay viable are the ones that treat those stories not as background noise, but as early design signals. Because foresight is just preparedness with better timing. You've been listening to the BANI series from Supply Chain 360, Thriving When Everything Keeps Changing. For regular listeners, if you haven't yet, a follow and a quick review go a long way. Thanks for your support. In our next and final episode, we'll wrap up the series by looking at what it really takes to lead in the BANI decade, how mindset, governance, and culture define whether a supply chain can truly evolve. Until then, keep your eyes open for the white swans.